Reality must always be real. It has no forms or names. That which underlines forms and names is the reality. It underlines all limitations, being that self is limitless. It has no bondage. It underlines all unrealities, being that it is reality itself. Reality is that which is. It is as it is. It transcends speech. It is above existence and non-existence. The reality which is consciousness and which remains when the ignorance is destroyed, along with all the objects of its perception, is the self. This is the God Self. Here exists not the slightest ignorance. The reality which shines forth fully without suffering and without a body, whether the world is known or whether the world is not known, it shines equally, and it is your real form. The radiance of consciousness, bliss, within one's awareness, shining equally within and without, is the supreme, blissful, primal reality. Its form is silence, and it is declared by the wise ones to be the final, indestructible state of knowledge. The wisdom alone is non-attachment. Wisdom alone is purity. Wisdom is the attainment of God. Wisdom, which is the forgetfulness of self, alone is immortality. Wisdom alone is everything. You are awareness. Awareness is another name for you. Since you are awareness, there is no need to attain it or cultivate it. All that one needs to do is to give up being aware of all the other things of the not-self. If one gives up being aware of them, then pure awareness remains, and that is the self. There is no duality. Your present knowledge is only due to the ego. It is relative knowledge, and relative knowledge requires a subject and an object. But awareness is absolute. It requires no object. Memory is equally relative. It requires an object to be remembered and a subject to remember. When there is no duality, who is to remember whom? The self is always and forever present. Each one wants to know the self. What kind of help does one need to know oneself? People want to see the self as something new, but it is eternal, and it remains the same all along. Some desire to see it as a blazing light. But how can this be so? It is not light. It is not darkness. It is only as it is. It cannot be defined or properly explained. The best definition is as is written in the Bible. I am that I am. It is only being. It is knowledge, but still different from knowledge and ignorance. How can one define it at all? It is simply being. There is no seeing when the self is realized, because seeing is only being. The state of self-realization is not obtaining something new or reaching a goal which is far away, but rather it is simply being that which you always are and always have been. All that is really needed is that you stop accepting that which is not true as true. We are all accepting our perceptions as real, but they are not real. Our part is to give up this practice. It is but habitual tendency. And when we do so, we will realize the self as the self. In other words, be the self. There will come a time that you will laugh at yourself for trying to discover the self, which is so obvious. That stage transcends the seer, the seeing, and the seen. There is no seer to see anything. The seer who is seeing all this now ceases to exist, and the self alone remains. If we speak about knowing the self, there must be two selves, one knowing self and another self which is known, and also the process of knowing. That which we call realization is simply being oneself, not knowing anything or becoming anything. If one is realized, then that is being that which one is and has always been. One cannot describe that state. One can only be that. We say the word realization for lack of a better term. For how can one realize or make real that which is already real? The self is silence. For those who live in self as the beauty with no thought, they are aware that there is nothing to think of that is not already known. One should avoid all clinging, but if one must cling to something, cling to the silence, because in silence there is nothing to attain other than oneself. That state which transcends speech and thought is silence. That which is silence. How can one explain silence in words? Wise ones say that the state where the I does not rise, even in the least, is self. This is silence. That silent self alone is God. The self alone is the soul. The self alone is this ancient world. All other knowledge is only petty and trivial knowledge. The experience of silence alone is the real and perfect knowledge. Notice that all the perceived differences are not real. They are only phenomena appearing on the self. And the self is the form of true knowledge. If one accepts the idea, I am the body, see that the selves are multiple, and the place where this idea vanishes is the self, since in that state there are no other objects. It is for this reason that the self is regarded as one only, since the body does not exist in the natural being of the self, but only in the extroverted outlook of the mind, where it is deluded by the powers of illusion. To call self the space of consciousness, the possessor of the body, is wrong. The world does not exist without the body. The body does not exist without the mind. The mind does not exist without consciousness. And consciousness never exists without the reality. For the wise ones who know the self because of inquiry into the self, there is nothing other than self to be known. Why is this? Because the ego, which identifies itself as a form of a body and says, I, has perished. Thus, the wise one is the former existence, consciousness. The wise ones know they are the self, and nothing, not their body, nor anything else exists, only the self. To such a one, what difference could the presence or absence of a body make? Actually, it is false to speak of realization, for what is there to realize? The real is as it always is. We are not creating anything new, nor achieving something which we did not have before. Liberation, freedom, is our very nature. We are that. The very fact that we desire liberation shows that freedom from bondage is our nature. It need not be freshly acquired. All that is needed is to remove the false notion that we are bound. Then you will achieve that there will be no desire or thoughts. When will one achieve that there will be no desire or thoughts? So long that one desires liberation, one is actually in bondage. When you say, I had a dream, I was in deep sleep, I am awake, you must admit that you were there in all three states. That makes it clear that you were there all the time. If you remain as you are now, you are in the wakeful state. This becomes hidden in the dream state, and the dream state disappears when you are in deep sleep. You were there then. You are there now. And you are there at all times. The three states come and go, but you are always there. It is like the cinema. The screen is always there, but several pictures appear on the screen, and then they disappear. Nothing sticks to the screen. It remains a screen. Equally, you remain in your own self, in all the three states. If you know that, the three states will not trouble you, just as the pictures of the cinema which appear on the screen do not stick to it. On the screen, you sometimes see a huge ocean, and then it disappears. Another time you see fire, and that also disappears. But the screen is there on both occasions. Did the screen get wet with water? Did it get burned by the fire? Nothing affected the screen. In the same way, the things that happened during the wakeful dream and sleep states do not affect you at all. You remain yourself. All these states come and go. The self is not bothered. It has only one state. The wise ones will be in this world as a witness. The example is like the light which is kept on the stage of the theater when the drama is being played out. The light illuminates without any distinction all the actors, whether they are kings or servants or dancers. And also it illuminates the audience. That light will be there before the drama begins, during the performance, and also after the performance is over. In the same way, the light within is the self, and it gives light to the ego, the intellect, the memory, and the mind, without itself being subject to process of birth and decay. Although during deep sleep and other states there is no feeling of the ego, and the self remains attributeless, it continues to shine of itself. Actually, the idea of the self being the witness is only in the mind. It is not the absolute truth of the self. Witnessing is relative to objects witnessed. Both the witness and the objects are mental creations. There is only one state, that of consciousness, awareness, or existence. The three states of waking, dream, and sleep cannot be real, and they simply come and go. The real will always exist. The I, or the existence that alone persists in all three states, is real. The other three are not. So it is not possible to say that they have such and such a degree of reality. We may roughly put it like this: existence or consciousness is the only reality. Consciousness plus waking we call waking. Consciousness plus sleep we call sleep. Consciousness plus dream we call dream. Consciousness is the screen on which all the pictures come and go. The screen is real. The pictures are mere shadows on it. Because of habit, we have been regarding these three states as real. We call awareness or consciousness the fourth state. There is, however, no fourth state, but only one state. There is no difference between dreams and waking, other than dreams are short and the waking state is long. Both are results of the mind. Because the waking state is long, we imagine that it is our real state. But as a matter of fact, our real state is the fourth state, which is always as it is. And it knows nothing of the three states of waking, dream, or sleep. Because we call these three states, we call the fourth state also a state. But it is not a state. It is the natural state of self. When this is realized, we know that it is not a fourth state, for a fourth state is only relative to other states. Rather, it is the transcendent state. All states occur within it. The self does not say that these states come and go. It is the seer that says they come and go. The seer and the seeing are together and constitute the mind. See if there is a such thing as mind. Then the mind will merge into the self. And there is neither the seer nor the seen. So the real answer is, they neither come nor go. The self alone remains as it ever is. The three states owe their existence to non-inquiry, because self-inquiry puts an end to them. However much one may explain, the fact will not become clear until one attains self-realization. And then one wonders how one was blind to the obvious for so long. There is no difference between the mind and the self. Turned inwards, it is the self. Turned outwards, it becomes the ego and all the world. Cotton, made into various clothes, called by various names, or gold, made into various ornaments, we call by various names. But all the clothes are cotton, and all the ornaments are gold. The one is real, the many are mere names and forms. But the mind does not exist apart from the self. That is, it has no independent existence. The self exists without the mind, never the mind without the self. God is being, consciousness, bliss. That which is only being. Being is called God. The luster of being is consciousness, and its nature is bliss. Consciousness is not different from beingness, and all three together is known as beingness, consciousness, bliss. Although the self is real, because it comprises everything, it does not give room for questions involving duality about its reality or unreality. Therefore, it is said to be different from the real and the unreal. Equally, even though it is consciousness, since there is nothing other to know or make itself known to, it is said to be different from the sentient and the insentient. These three together, being, consciousness, bliss, is not different from being. It is not different from consciousness. It is not different from bliss. And it is not different from happiness. Because we are in the phenomenal world, we speak of ourselves in the terms of beingness, consciousness, and bliss. Perfect bliss is God. Perfect peace is of the self. That alone exists and is consciousness. That which is called happiness is only the nature of self. Self is not other than perfect happiness. That which is called happiness alone exists. Knowing that fact and abiding in the state of the self, you may enjoy bliss eternally. If a person thinks that happiness is due to external causes and possessions, it is reasonable to conclude that the happiness will be gained with more possessions, and the happiness will diminish with less possessions. Therefore, if one is void of possessions, happiness should be zero. What is the real experience? Does it confirm this view? In deep sleep, one is void of possessions, including one's own body. But instead of being unhappy, one is quite happy. Everyone desires to sleep soundly. The conclusion is that happiness is inherent in humans and is not due to external causes. One must realize the self in order to open the store of unlimited happiness. Call it by any name: God, self, the heart, or the seat of consciousness. It is all the same. The point to be understood is this: that the heart means the very core of one's being, the center, without which there is nothing whatsoever. The heart is not physical, it is spiritual. It is the center. It is that from which all thoughts arise, of which they subsist, and where they are resolved. The thoughts and the content of the mind, when they shape the universe, the heart, is the center of all. That from which beings come into existence is said to be God. That is the heart. God is the heart. How does one realize the heart? There is no one who even for a moment fails to experience the self, for no one admits that they ever stand apart from the self. They are the self. The self is the heart. The heart is the center from which everything springs. Because you see the world and things, it is said there is a center for these which is called the heart. When you are in the heart is known neither to be the center nor the circumference. There is nothing else apart from it. The consciousness, which is the real existence, and which does not go out to know those things which are other than self, alone is the heart. Since the truth of self is known only to the consciousness, which is void of all activity, that consciousness, which always remains attending to self alone, is the shining of clear knowledge.